Welcome back to another Share Your Light episode. This is our opportunity to highlight and share members of our listening community who are truly stepping into their power, their light, and their purpose. My hope is that as we hear each other's stories, we'll find that motivation within ourselves to say, I think it's time for me to step up as well. We're building more and more of a like-minded community, and I think part of that is hearing that other people may share the same dream that you do, and how some steps to possibly step into that in your own life. So today we're really excited to welcome Nicole. Nicole Harp is a lifelong artist and educator with a communication arts and design degree from Virginia Commonwealth University. She spent most of her career as an accomplished abstract painter, balancing the functions of text and image in her artwork. Now, both sides come together to enhance her multifaceted career as an animal communicator. There have always been two sides to Nicole, the creative arts side that lives and breathes art, and the spiritual side with a deep connection to nature and animals. So while she's always felt that she had to shelve her spiritual side, it seems to emerge on the canvas in organic brushstrokes and authentic colors. Nicole is an animal communicator whose sessions allow for healing for her clients. She provides consultations for all animal species and communicates with animals in spirit as well as living. She validates by revealing personal details and the essence of your animal. This meaningful information authenticates the connection only you share with your pet or your animal or your dear companion. She communicates and answers questions regarding personality traits, behavior, health, opinions, likes, dislikes, and so much more. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you, Denise. Thanks for having the podcast. And I really appreciate you having me on. And I'm grateful for being able to be an animal communicator and share that with you today. So thank you.
You're very welcome. I think an interesting part of your story is that you've always had this connection with animals and you've always been an artist, but we're going to focus right now. We'll come back to the art in a few minutes. But your life's work has always involved animals and with fostering, with rescuing, with being involved with nonprofits. But you've also had a couple of really incredible projects that, if you could share those, that really brought you to a bigger stage as far as your compassion and your true deep conviction to helping animals.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. So like you said, it did probably with many of your listeners, it started, just always having a love and connection for animals. They'd show up at my doorstep. And in fact, one week, I think one time in my life when I was coming out of college, I found I rescued an animal like once a week for like 2 months. They just like came to me. Yeah. And that, like you said, that led to volunteering and nonprofit like development, raising money. Everything I did, like working in the shelters, was so hard, demanding physically and emotionally. And then the Eco Dog, that project started out which is interesting, it started out as an art project. So it started with a citizen art project where citizens of Norfolk, where I live, Norfolk, Virginia, came together to come up with ideas on how to make Norfolk a better place. And actually people from Norfolk deciding that, opposed to having some outside influence and paying them big time money to decide how Norfolk could be a better place. They came up with the citizens, an idea of Eco Dog. I was like, this is amazing. I love animals. I love dogs. It could be for anything though. It could be for the zoo. And we flushed it out with an engineer friend of mine. I like to do what I say I'm going to do. So I was like, I'm going to bring this to fruition. So we did. And we came up with a prototype. And the neighborhood loved it. The community loved it. And then we decided to scale it up and make it a business. Eco Dog, it's like a 4x4 footprint. And it's as made with as sustainable materials as we can. And really a picture does it justice. And actually, I think there's one on my website. It takes water from roofs and filters it using biofiltration and solar, filters it into clean drinking water for dogs, animals. Yeah, we built those, scaled it up, and then the pandemic hit and we had to close the business. But we do have some in Asheville and North Carolina. We have some here. When that closed, I was like, there's got to be another way, or maybe a less. It was just killing me, the business. Like, it was things I didn't know how to do, like engineering. I'm an artist and I made it look good, but it was so much work for so little output. I was like, there's got to be something else where I can help animals.
Just the fact that of the collaboration of your town and with your engineer friend to do this, but using solar power, using biofiltration to filter the rainwater, that's environmentally leaves less of a footprint, but it also is something that could be instituted other places, which is great. And I think as more and more people bring their pets, their dogs, you go into so many cities now and they're dog friendly, or their businesses will advertise as being pet friendly. So that's a
Right.
wonderful thing.
You're right. Everybody loved it. It's just no one really wanted to pay for it. But oh my God, this is amazing. And I will say the West Coast, because they're just, I feel up north and the West Coast is so ahead of us. They loved it. They did. And they're like, when are you coming to Seattle? When are you coming to California? I have that. It's kind of shelved for now. Maybe later I will pick it up. I don't know. But the quarters was another engineer friend of mine. I actually work really well with engineers, but because as an artist, I want to make things move. I'm a painter, but I want to, I really love to make this move. Or wouldn't that be great with motion or to have sound? So that's when engineers come in. So the Quarters for Conservation was for the zoo. They are part of the American Zoo, any zoo that's part of the AZA, which is American Zoo Association. They have to give money back to scientists for conservation. They had an idea, look, we have this naked, empty kiosk, not a kiosk, but a bus station, which would be the kiosk. And then we would like you to come up with an idea. So it was like a 2-year project. We did like a gear, again, it's something I feel like you need to see, but 8-game kiosk that glows in the dark. It's got motion sensors. You put the quarter in, you kind of steer, you choose the animal that you want to put the quarter in for, which the quarter goes to conservation. And it's mainly for kids, but it's for parents too. I mean, I thought it was fun. And you put the quarter in and the ball drops. And it's one of those old quarter turners, which I love, like a gumball machine. Then we 3D printed all the gears, industrial 3D printed, and the quarter drops the ball and the ball goes down and you kind of steer it where it wants to go with these little turns and the steering wheel. And, when it goes down and, it makes the sound like, so if you've got monkeys, it's like, ooh, ooh, ah, 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 ooh, it's so I thought it was all sensories, again, specially designed for children, to kind of educate them on the kind of mechanicals of the gears, and then the animals. There's facts and pictures and sounds and everything, trying to kind of stimulate them, get them to ask questions. And, hopefully the parents are there working with them. And so there's that connection with the parents and the children, the animal species. And then those rotate, they change the animals out every so many years, which ones they're going to support, which conservation efforts.
Learning modality for children is so important in all the conservation efforts that we're trying to bring onto the planet right now. And if it's World Wildlife or if it's your local community as Eco Dog, it still leads back to your love and devotion to working with animals, which I think is really important. That for anyone who's listening and saying, I've always loved animals, I've wanted to help, I've wanted to do something, and how that can easily lead into animal communication. And for you, you've worked with people, you've worked with animals. Working with animals as a communicator seems to be your real forte. So how could you explain, how do you view animal communication?
Animal communication for me it's a dream come true. It's the question I've always asked: how can I help animals? How can I do it? And brings the spiritual side of me, and and actually the art infuses that, but in the animals. And it leaves a lasting impression. I feel like I have an eidetic or photographic memory of every animal photograph I've looked at. So I feel like they're collectively a part of me, and every story is different. The simplistic way is it's telepathic. It's you're using intuition and your sixth sense, and it's a telepathic heart-to-heart communication. The long version, it's animal communications, empathetic. It's a heartfelt connection with another species. But actually what it does, Denise, which is pretty amazing, and it helps humans to gain a better understanding of who we are. In my communications, one of the questions I'm always asking to the animal, because they're my client, what are you here to teach? And that particular guardian. And they're all different. Whatever, you may not get what you want, but you always get what you need. All the reasons that they're here are just so different depending on who their guardian is. So it really helps us discover who we are. And then actually, one thing I was thinking when I was, before we were going to meet, our animals, they come to us while we're working, or they come to us throughout the day, and we look at them, and sometimes we sit down and we play with them, or we go over and we connect with them. But like, the most important thing is that one moment where they come over and we know we need to stop what we're doing. We know we need to get up and stretch or do something, and we go with them and we sit down and we play toy, we do whatever. And that moment is like, puts us in the present moment. It really connects us with being our humanity and who we are. And it's like, that's their gift to us, is that taking us out of the chaos and just placing us in the present moment. That's something that's profound that I've realized, and they make me do more often, that I've always wanted to stop more and be present because of them.
So as a medium, a lot of people will want to connect with their pet in spirit or their companion animal in spirit, more so sometimes than even their person who passed. There's such a heartfelt, true connection with our animals, and that continues even. I mean, animals go to spirit too. I think that that's really important to keep that love and heart connection open. But so do you feel a difference between connecting with an animal that's in spirit and one that's still here and alive?
Yes. And I've connected with animals that I didn't know it, but the one was kind of in the middle of, getting ready, was really sick and getting ready to pass. And it was interesting. So that particular one, I found it hard to connect because they were like right in the thick of it. And then, I ended up connecting and not knowing right after they passed. Their whole communication was how to make the owners, the guardians, how to ease their pain. And that selflessness comes through in all readings, but there is a difference. They seem to be more philosophical if they've passed. They don't linger on what got them there. For me, when I communicate with animals that have passed, they seem to be more philosophical when they speak than when they're living.
So you also have a background with training and helping people with dogs who may have had behavioral issues or separation anxiety or some other basically behavioral issues that make it really difficult for not only the person but for the animal to have a successful experience in the home as well. So what would be some benefits of someone coming to an animal communicator?
I have worked with the rescue. Well, actually, I've only owned rescues. I just think they're the best. They make the best. Companions, especially with rescues. If there is, and like I said, they come to you with all different experiences and backgrounds, like you said. So, if there's behavior issues, if the cat's peeing outside the litter box, if you're bringing a new animal into the house with other animals there, I can, communicate and with the ones there or that one coming in and make that a better transition. Babies coming into the family, people moving. Any question goes. I'm pretty successful. I would say I'm successful. For me, it's about that human animal bond, and is keeping it, making it, encouraging it, cultivating it as strong as it can be. So I do check-ins because I care. Did TJ stop peeing outside the box and start peeing in his litter box? I need to know. I mean, I want to make that relationship as successful as possible for the guardian and the animal. So, but anything you can communicate, you can help uncover health issues, help cope with. If you've lost, if an animal is in a house with another animal and has lost that pet, like I said, all the trauma of moving or coming from a rescue or some other situation, family, the pet's owner has passed. That's what seems to be a lot. The older owner and the animals were left, and they didn't have anybody that those animals were going to go to, and they kind of were forced into another home. I had 2 of those recently, so all about compassion. So.
It is, and it's also because most of our listeners, if not all, are highly empathic, very sensitive people. There's that strong bond with the animals. But I think my own perspective is, even though we feel that, I believe the animals feel it even more so. So everything that we're sucking up like a sponge, the animals are as well. So if you're noticing that your dog or your cat or your horse or whatever animal it doesn't matter what animal we're talking about, is acting different behaviorally or is shying away or is needing to hide or is feeling skittish, and there doesn't seem to be a catalyst for that behavior, often I believe that they're tapping into something so much more than we may be even aware of. So they can be wonderful barometers of letting us know what's going on environmentally as well.
Definitely. I mean, you probably experienced that with Gracie in your house with the barometric pressure. If there's a storm coming,
Yes.
that they usually know. People have had, they ask, do we have spirits in our house because our dog is barking at the corner of the room? I mean, we've had that where every time I went to the studio, my friend's Pomeranian would come over and my terrier and just bark at the ceiling in the studio, and then eventually that went away. They do. And they pick up on everything, and we don't, even our stuff, like you go through something and, you feel, that Peter Levine, your body keeps the score, and you have to physically get it out if you go through some kind of trauma or just whatever the day gets in you, and they pick up on that, and they take that from us. It's like when your dog is there with you while you're on it recording a podcast, and just they watch our back, they pick up on any of that stuff coming on the internet, and they're always protecting us. It's an unconscious and unspoken thing, and we don't even bother to thank them because we don't even know sometimes, but they do, and they are so sensitive. So that's why it's really important to get them out of the space and let them physically move that out of their body, walk them, take them out to run through the ball. That's so important, as it is for us to physically move through getting the energy off us and out of us.
So a lot of times animal communicators will say that they get visuals, and that
Right.
dogs or I'm going to just use dogs as an example, will show you pictures. But then when I connect with animals, I feel it very similar to, like, they have a unique soul seed light that is very specific to the animal. How do they communicate with you specifically, Nicole?
Yeah, I understand. So I was just thinking that I think yesterday, or I was looking through one of the communications, and I have all these drawings, and it's just great that I'm an artist because I get the vision. Sometimes it's, a picture's worth 1,000 words is true, and I just draw it. Like this one, Jimmy the cat, he was jumping from 2 stories down on people's cars, and he just showed me him like, these like jumps, and I'm like, I don't know, Jimmy, I'm gonna draw it. When they're telling me where they're in pain, I can feel it in my body, like you say, and then I draw on a little drawing where exactly I'm feeling that. Then I get words too. So then I just will start to write, sometimes in a different handwriting, right? It just depends. And then also too, in communications, I'll pick up on information, having studied psychic and the tarot and psychic, which I did first, and then kind of morphed organically and fluidly into this. I'll start to pick up on information from the guardians as well. And, I'll have to, of course, ask them. You don't want to do any, drive-by reading communications for the owner unless they're asking. But most of the time, the readings are for the owners more so than the animals.
Because it is a unique connection, and you're right. It's a connection with the animal, but it's also a connection with the people that animal is involved with. And that's equally important, because I really do go by the premise there aren't any bad dogs.
Exactly. I know the rest of that sentence. I agree.
Have you had experience with tracking animals or finding missing animals? Or I know that that's so heartbreaking for so many people if their animal's lost or they're concerned. And, we both know naturally in the wild, animals will go off by themselves if they're getting ready to transition. But in our world, that's really it's not as much of an option in a civilized society or less of a rural society. So do you do that as well?
That whole experience is gut wrenching, and I know it from having animals that have gotten out. We found them later, but I do help find missing animals and tracking them. It's emotionally and time wise, it's a full time, like that is a full-time job. So you're dealing with an animal that could be, stressed, a human that's stressed. Got to find out the conditions of that animal. Everything is so moving, nothing's stationary. And then trying to get them to kind of link up on the same day if you can find them. And then first of all, you have to find out if they want to come home. There's some reasons, there's some animals that belong with another family. There's some animals that are, especially like if they're not spayed or neutered, are out just being animals. Like a male cat, he's out just being a male cat. My clients are the animals, and first and foremost, even though their guardians are footing the bill. I have to be true to them. It's a lot, and it's very, very hard. That's not all I do because of those reasons. And there are some people who that's all they do, and they have to be available 24/7. And the two that I'm working with now, the two of the animals were found, two and one with one client were found. And then I'm working with another woman with a cat. And, my Denise, my reading tells me he'll be back at the end of September. I'm hoping that's the case. And I'm going to tap in, try to communicate with him again and see if that's still his plan, because they're on the move. It's just so hard. I can't even get into how many aspects of complex it is, actually.
You're right, because a lot of times you might get a vision of you're seeing an animal hunkered down under a tree in a lightning storm, and then by the time you can portray that message, they may have moved on to a new location, or they're right. and that's hard. But I can see whereas if someone else has taken them in, there's a lot of variables.
Right. And actually, too, you have to kind of have the guardian looking while you're communicating, like so that it's real time. Or you link up with the animal and have them meet the guardian, try to meet them at a certain place and time. And that you can do that. And then there's times when the animals somewhere where they can't see them. And then you try to please give me some kind of marker or, something where your owner can, it's all, and the crazy thing is it's like that lately there's all trees or it's all grass. There's no like defining marker. So usually they hear water or something like that. But yeah, it's tough. It's a tough one on everyone, including the communicator. But I like to try to stay with it and at least stay there emotionally too for the guardian, because I know how hard it is.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you feel that your art gives you a balance to the intensity of the communication work?
I feel like me painting, being in the studio, making art, makes me a better communicator. It opens me up. I'm in the kind of trance when I'm painting. It's all mine. It's just me and spirit. It's just me painting. And so it opens me up. It does give me, I feel it makes me definitely more present, more open. I feel like my heart's more expanded. I'm in that state of love, which you need to be when you communicate with an animal. They're pure love. And that's like when I communicate with them, like when I go to, like, there's a way I do it, but it's interesting because I've talked to other animal communicators and they're like, they start by telling them how much they love them. And I do that too, but I feel like I go in when they know that there could not be any more respect and love for those for animals in general. And I feel like they know that. And I think the making, creating something that never existed before, I feel like that does prepare me and puts me in the perfect space to be a conduit to the animal world.
Oh, it's beautiful. And you offer art services as well, correct?
I do. It's interesting. Some people who know me well, you and some other people, like looked at my art and kind of made some suggestions. And it's funny because I do offer that. And that again, just kind of morphed where I can bring the communication and the art together. And if you were to look at my art website and because I've been a professional painter since 1992, professional artist. So I have that like lifetime of work. And then if you look at the work I'm creating now, what I do is like art and mediumship. So there's a couple different variations. So I can paint the energy of a living or past animal. And then I do humans as well. And that's the two that I'm working on some animal ones now, but that's the two that I have on two of the many I have on my site. I go into the studio. I kind of sit in the power, meditate, intuitively tap in like I would for a communication with an animal. And then I bring forth to the canvas the energy of that animal. And, for the client, I will show them a preview and ask them if that, like I do for the communication, is this the essence of your animal? Or I'll even give them some specifics. And they'll say yes, and then I'll continue. But that connection is really important that the guardian have that openness and that, yes, and it is in fact the connection is to my animal.
And I think that's really important, especially as an abstract artist. This isn't a
Yes.
portrait of your pet in spirit. This is more the clairsentience, the energy, the feel of what's coming through.
Absolutely, Denise, you get it.
That's a totally different art form.
Absolutely.
So, and where can people find you, Nicole?
My website is like Headspace, but harpspace.org.
Okay, so harpspace.org.
Harpspace.org. Yeah.
Your animal communication website. So if people want to connect with you for an animal reading or for more information or have a question about your communication skills and how you do this work, they would go to harpspace.org.
Harpspace.org.
Okay, and then they can find your art and connections with that whole part of your persona on NicoleHarp.com.
Yes, ma'am. NicoleHarp.com.
Okay, and both of those have a way for people to connect with you or to reach out.
Right.
Beautiful.
Yes, absolutely. I have lots of people that reach out and they're like, I'm glad you're here and, I love the work, and then they connect later.
Well, I think that especially when there are high emotions, as with any type of intuitive work or mediumship or healing work, you have to honor when the time is right for you to pursue that. And you may check this out and say, well, this looks incredible. Sometimes I think for a lot of us, it takes us 2 or 3 times out of the gate before we say, okay, now I'm ready to commit to this and see what's out there.
Right. So when you reach out for a communication, you send a high resolution image of your animal that you want me to communicate with and their name, and that's it. And then I will send you back some first impressions, and that will be the essence of your animal or specific details. So at that point, if you're like, oh yes, you book, and if not, then no harm, no foul, you don't. So then that I'm connecting with your specific animal companion.
Right. And I think that's incredibly important because trained as a medium, there is the evidential part. We want to bring through that essence and that personality and the traits, but we need to have something that really links it to who that person is. So if I say this a lot to people, it's your gram and she loves you, that's great. But if I haven't given you something that it's your grandmother, then I could just be saying that. And I think with animals, getting a specific or getting a tendency or getting a behavior that is so unique to that animal really does help build that link and paint them back to life in the same way that when we're bringing through someone we love who was in human form when they were here.
Absolutely. And, Denise, it changes your reading too. Like if someone's on the other end saying, no, then it changes your flow. Right. But if you already know ahead of time, then they're excited. They're excited, like, yeah, you're like, that is my grandmother. Then they get excited. And then also too, with like an animal, they're getting the okay from the guardian. Some are very submissive, and getting the okay from the guardian and the guardian being excited and both of them being a go, then it's a flow for you as the communicator.
Many, many years ago, we had a lot of exotics. We had a lot of reptiles. We had a lot of really unique animals in my home. And the personalities that go with those are very different than a dog or a cat or a horse or a goat. That when you step, have you done any readings for non-mammals?
I'm so glad you asked that. I just saw the baby of a little gecko that I read. So I do collective work with other animal communicators. I work with Pia Horsley in the UK too, with the Pride, and we do whole animal species. I have connected with a family of like black geckos in my yard. Yeah, I connected. They were a little more, because they're not domesticated, they're a little more business and straightforward. But he basically, the male gecko, said, we're going to take up home here. And are you okay with that? And I mean, he came to me. I was in, I did a meditation. I was in the space, how I prepare. And he came forward, introduced me to his whole family. True. And some of the stuff, it's like, you, like you say, quote unquote, you cannot make this up. You can't make this up. But yeah. And it's so funny because just the other day I saw the babies running around. just ran right up to me. Yes, I have. I've done a snake, and they're always, that particular snake was just like, why was always always questioned why people were so scared of the snake. And I imagine your animals, your reptiles would have maybe some of those same questions.
It's a very different energy
Yeah.
and vibration of, say, a albino Burmese python versus a
Yes.
puppy. I mean, you don't want to have the two in the same room, actually.
Right.
I mean, you're offering all these beautiful services, and I think the really important thing is that you're doing this to be of service to the animals and to help people. It's a very healing modality for you, and you're very blessed to be able to integrate in your work as an artist as well. So thank you so much for doing this with me today. And also for anyone who's interested, Nicole, so it's Nicole Harp, and you can reach her at NicoleHarp.com for her artwork and harpspace.org for any animal communication.
I did want to offer if people type in the Enlightened Empaths in the subject line.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I would definitely give a discount for your listeners because they deserve it.
Okay, so if you reach out to, and that would be on the Harpspace, correct?
Harpspace.org. When you go to book.
And I believe you had said that if you send an email and you have an animal communication, and that's if someone books, they'll get 20% off.
I do. Thank you, Denise.
You're very welcome. And thank you for sharing your light and your energy and your love with us. That's very important for everyone who's listening, is to realize that if you have something that is calling your heart, that you feel important, there's always a way to get there. Just trust your heart. You're going in the right direction.
I'm grateful to you, Denise. You're instrumental in the reason I'm doing this. So thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Take care.
Take care.